Geoff Mamlet, founder of Hub Boston, which will be open in a couple months. Since the beginning of 2000, managing director of Cambridge Innovation Center, which is a very large community of startups and other businesses in Kendall Square in Boston, in Cambridge, actually, across the street from MIT. As far as we know, it's the largest community of startups in one area anywhere in the world. We have about 600 companies altogether, about 450 of them are startups, about 3/4 of them. And all told, we operate about a little over 210,000 square feet of space. About 210,000. Let me just step back for a moment and talk about why this question is useful if you're a hub. Why do you think about making a place? I think it has to do with sustainability of your organization, your ability to continue to operate. One of the challenges is that any business like the Hub faces is how do you bring new members in and support your existing members, and how do you support your members that grow beyond your own capabilities to support them in your facility. And placemaking is very much relevant to that. And one example of this is a story I heard from Hub Prague, which has been open for a bit longer than many of the other hubs, and has had the experience as businesses, as members have moved out of Hub Prague, have outgrown their capabilities. They have actually taken space in the same building or nearby buildings owned by the same owner. And that's quite relevant because what that does is that creates demand for the property owner's property that they might not otherwise be able to secure. That is, these organizations want to be close to the community in which they grew up. And that's powerful for building the community, but also in terms of the sustainability of the hub, because it means that when Hub Prague has to renew their lease, they can have a very different kind of conversation with the property owner than they would have were they just any other commercial tenant occupying their space, because they have delivered value to the property owner above and beyond what's actually transacted in, I pay my rent every month and so on. So it makes them a very special kind of tenant for a property owner. And that's powerful, particularly in a real estate market which is challenging for us to operate in. Many hubs are intentionally keeping prices low in order to support their members, and one consequence of that is that they're not great cash gushing businesses, and therefore any help that we can apply to support the sustainability of the hub is very useful. So I think this is the background for me about why this question is so important for placemaking, that if hubs can operate in this way, then the hubs are more likely to survive and grow. And as a consequence of having more of their offspring, if you will, around them, they create much more of a community and a community ethic around making positive change in the world. And so you get these self-reinforcing effects that draw more people to that area and more people interested in those kinds of activities. And that's very powerful as well for the whole community. In Boston, in our neighborhood in Kendall Square, we've seen this not particularly through social entrepreneurs, but in general for entrepreneurs, because Kendall Square is one of the world centers of entrepreneurship. But when we started in 2000, the epicenter of activity was perhaps a 15-minute walk away at the other end of Kendall Square from where we located. And over the intervening years, we have managed to shift the epicenter very clearly to our part of Kendall Square, which now has a 2% vacancy rate at the same time that we have had millions of square feet added to the market in the last 5 years alone. So this has had a very powerful effect on the entire Boston entrepreneur community, to the point where entrepreneur activity that used to take place in other parts of the market now very definitely takes place in our market, in our part of the market. And that has obviously created significant value for, in our case, our property owner, which happens to be one of the local universities, MIT. And so our relationship with our landlord, which started as a, gee, I don't know about you guys, I'm kind of taking a chance, I'm going out on a limb here. You know, I could get the credit tenant, the, say, law firm that I could take to the bank and, you know, get credit in the financial markets for having that kind of a tenant there. Instead, I'll take a chance on you guys and hope that you'll do well. Well, that really paid off for them because we've created enormous demand for real estate in the market in general, and for them alone, well, I don't know about for them alone. I guess I don't have great statistics, really defined statistics to point to, but in general, in the market alone, our offspring, if you will, have created over 1 million square feet of demand in current terms. And if you look at the overall dynamic, we've had a very significant effect. One example would be that Google's Android project, which many of you might know, started in our facility along with their activity out in Mountain View at the Googleplex. And because Google put a lot of energy into building up their organization in Kendall Square, they found it all of a sudden a very attractive place to hire software developers that they hadn't been aware of before. And so in our facility, they grew to almost 200 people and then moved down the road. And I don't know how many people they have now, but certainly many hundreds. In order to be competitive, one of their big competitors, Microsoft, felt that they had to come and move into the area too. And so they moved literally across the street and took over, I think it was about 600,000 square feet of space in one office building, and now have grown to a second building in the area as well. And so these two examples alone, really demonstrate the potential. I don't believe that hubs themselves necessarily carry this kind of potential unless they reach that kind of scale, but I think that they illustrate what is possible for a hub, and I think that can only be helpful for all of us who operate hubs to, and for the members that we serve, to be able to do what we want to do and make the world a better place.